Today at Oregon Congresswoman Maxine Dexter's town hall, there were 4 or 5 pro-Palestinian hecklers. And they kept talking over the Congresswoman and interrupting her and other folks. They weren't really interested in hearing what she had to say. They just wanted to scream at her. And I made a video about that a little bit ago, because if we really care about stopping the genocide in Gaza, what is our plan to help the Palestinian people? It can't just be about us venting our anger. It can't just be about our self-righteous indignation. If we want to actually save lives, then we need a strategic plan to be able to do that. And I don't personally see a pathway to help the Palestinian people as long as Trump and the Republicans are in control of the United States government. We had a chance to elect somebody to the White House who we could push on Gaza, who was receptive to listening to the will of the people. We don't have that now. We now have Netanyahu's buddy who wants to continue to use our taxpayer dollars to wipe Gaza off the map and to build a vacation destination for the super rich. So if we want to get from the point where we are today with the Palestinian people experiencing extreme human rights violations, and I don't just mean the military actions that Israel is taking against innocent civilians there, I also mean the fact that people there are starving because they cannot get access to humanitarian aid. If we want to get from there to a place where our tax dollars are no longer funding the horrors that are happening in Palestine, and if we want to get even farther to a place where there's peace for the Palestinian people, but there's also, the ability for them to have their own nation, their own sovereign nation, where they are able to control their own lives and they're no longer living in living and dying in the apartheid state of Israel. What is the plan to get us from here to here and then to here? Because I understand the righteous indignation, I understand the heartache, but also it's not about our feelings. It's not about how bad this makes us feel. It's about saving lives. And that means we need effective planning that is going to get the job done. And screaming at your congresswoman who says we should not be funding arms to Israel, they are carrying out crimes against humanity. But I absolutely think that we should be talking to our electeds about this. We absolutely should continue to be raising this issue. And at Maxine's town halls, they pull tickets, and if your number gets called, you can ask a question. And a gentleman did actually ask about that today, and I want to talk about what he said and what Maxine said in response. So first off, there was a gentleman in the front row who had a large sign. They ask you not to bring signs bigger than 8.5 by 11 so that you don't block the views of the other constituents. Yet he had a large sign he kept holding up. And I recognize this gentleman. He's been at almost every event I've been to for the last several months. He really, really does not like Ron Wyden, and he really, really does not like Maxine Dexter. And he kept repeatedly interrupting her in a way that said he was not interested in engaging in a dialogue with her or hearing what she had to say at all. He just wanted to scream at her. And I understand being really passionate and heartbroken over what is happening in Gaza to the children of Gaza especially. But I don't understand now, and I didn't understand during the 2024 election, that contingent of people who act like the only human rights violation, the only atrocities that are occurring in the world are happening in Gaza. The contingent of never Kamala leftists who seem to prefer Donald Trump getting elected, even though Palestinians said, please do everything that you can, America, to make sure that Trump never gets back in office. And this group of people were perfectly happy for the most vulnerable in America, our immigrants here, our Black women here, our disabled folks, our children, to be sacrificed to the regime of Donald Trump. They didn't care about those other lives. They didn't care about the other genocides going on around the world. They were hyper-focused on Palestine, and I have repeatedly called it their pet atrocity. That's an offensive way to frame it, but it's really accurate. And I don't understand why it is that they feel that the lives of Black women, of children in the U.S., of disabled folks, of immigrants matter less. Or the lives of people in South Sudan or the Congo, or the millions of children that are now dying because Elon Musk has pulled back USAID, the 60,000 people that have already died because Elon Musk ended tuberculosis and AIDS treatment in Africa. Why do those people's lives not matter? That it's only this very performative stance for Palestine and all of this virtue signaling on the internet. And I think we need to be really careful that not everybody who supports an end to the genocide in Gaza is necessarily pro-Palestinian liberation, and that not everybody who is opposed to the genocide in Gaza and is pro-Palestinian liberation, is part of that never Kamala leftist, hyper-focused on only Palestine group of people. And today at that town hall, when that man was heckling Maxine from the front row repeatedly, I really appreciated what she said. She said, quote, "My compassion is not limited to one issue, but I appreciate that yours is right now." That is a really good way to frame this group of folks who don't seem to care about any of the other devastation that is happening, that don't seem to understand that the way to actually help the Palestinian people is to stop Trump, that all of these issues are interconnected, right? All of the suffering that people are experiencing in America, all of the suffering of our immigrant population, all of the suffering from cutting off USAID, all of that is connected to what is happening in Palestine, because the longer Trump is in power, the more vulnerable people around the world are going to suffer and die. That the way to help the Palestinian people is to do what we should have done in the first place and listen to them when they begged us to keep Donald Trump out of the White House. Okay, all of that being said, someone did stand up who had a ticket and asked a question about this issue. He said, "I'm a Jewish man and it hurts to read about the assault on Gaza because it's being done with our money." I don't know if anybody else had a literal breakdown having to pay your taxes this year, but I sure did. Maxine said, "We are in an unforgivable position as the US government for facilitating a devastation against an entire people. We, the US government, are accountable for our actions. Gaza is a tragic mess. Our humanitarian aid is not getting through to these people, and that's on us." She said, "We are facilitating Israel's ability to keep doing what they're doing against the Palestinian people." She also said, and she said this before, that she supports the Leahy Law. We already have laws on the books that say we cannot send military aid to countries, including our allies, that are committing human rights violations. She said the United States Congress has repeatedly violated the Leahy Law by choosing to send military funds to Israel. She said she supports a nation state for Gaza and that with Trump in charge, we aren't using any of our diplomatic power to stand up to Netanyahu. Other countries that are traditionally our allies are highly critical of Israel and what they're doing. And yet we are standing with Netanyahu. We are supporting him because Trump is in charge and the Republicans are in charge of Congress. They are the ones voting to send funds to Israel. And there are establishment, Democrats who take money from AIPAC who are also doing that. I'm not excusing them in any way. They also are responsible. But we can't stop anything that is happening in Gaza as long as Trump and the Republicans are in power. Maxine said, "We have enormous instability in our nation, and if our democracy falls, the people in Gaza will be much worse off than they are today." And today they are much worse off than they were, as of October of last year. Maxine said, as a physician, she cares very deeply about what is happening in Palestine. She said she's voted against bills that AIPAC has backed. Maxine said that we need to stand up for the people of Gaza. That's what she's doing. She signed on to Congresswoman Jayapal's resolution about it. She said she has voted against legislation that AIPAC has recommended. She said she is not fearful to stand up for the people of Gaza, and that as a physician, she is deeply concerned about stopping the atrocities that are happening there. So it seems to me here is an elected official that we can partner with, but I don't see the path forward to stopping this until we first deal with the big roadblock of Trump taking over the American government in an illegal coup, instituting an authoritarian regime. Like, if we need the democratic process to stop funding what's happening in Gaza, then we have to restore democracy first. When I voted for Kamala Harris, that was a decision to vote for human rights, human dignity, and that included seeing that as the best possible option on the table to stop the genocide in Gaza. So now we have Trump in office, and I would just encourage folks, even if you are one of those never Kamala leftists, and the only issue that you care about, the only issue that you are hyper-focused on is what is happening in Gaza. And for those of us for whom our compassion is not limited to one issue, I would say that we have something in common. We have a shared goal right now, because what both of us want requires us first toppling the Trump regime. If you actually want to help save the Palestinian people, screaming at an elected who wants to do the same thing and is fighting the Trump regime is not how you do that. Partnering with her for the restoration of our democracy is. We don't have the luxury of being puritanical in our politics if we want to save vulnerable people. We have to partner with a broad diversity of folks to literally save lives right now.